There's like a big disempowerment in people, like they do not trust themselves. They do not trust that there are opportunities around Romania. The core principle of the Romanian dream would be like, hey, you can do this here, you know, you can do things in Romania and you can build businesses and you can have a good life, whatever good means for you, however crisp and however enticing that good is for you, you can have that. There's nobody saying that you cannot have that.
Like the average Romanian American that is here has potential to do so much more, but the mindset, the communist mindset, the scarcity mindset, all of these different, traumas kind of come up and then they become self-sabotaging.
They cannot connect the dots from their current situation towards like the success that they see on TV for YouTube for some other people, right?
Welcome everybody to the $1 Billion Journey podcast. My name is Alex Duda and I'm your host, and I'm currently building a $1 billion empire in the unsexy corner of the economy, the restoration space. The goal of this podcast is to pull the curtain back and give you guys a raw, unfiltered view into lessons that I'm learning while building this $1 billion empire. I'm super excited today to invite Mr. Cristian to the podcast. He's a fellow Romanian, just like myself, lives in Bucharest. Cristian literally started out as a software engineer in Romania, ended up getting internships and then job offers with large companies like Facebook and Google here in the States and New York. And then he decided, actually, no, that's not my calling. Decided to quit that, went back to Romania and started an entire talent revolution where he's helped thousands of software engineers in Romania believe that they deserve more, and he's uplifted that entire community, which was super awesome, super intriguing, and I'm really excited to learn from him on how he did that. So Cristian, thanks so much for joining us here today, all the way in Chicago from Romania. How do you feel today?
Amazing. Thank you for having me. Excited to be the first guest of the podcast.
Yeah, man.
And let's get this to 1 billion views.
Oh, yeah. Oh, 1 billion views. There we go. $1 billion empire with a 1 billion view podcast. Bet.
Yeah.
Cristian, one thing I really appreciated about you ever since I met you is this purpose that you had. Obviously Elon Musk wants to go to, make mankind into this multi-planetary species. Gary Vee wants to buy the jets. We've been talking about these things. And, the first thing that really struck me about you was your concept of the Romanian dream. Obviously the American dream is the phrase that everybody knows, everybody's very well aware of, but this thing was very interesting. It hit home for me as a fellow Romanian. So can you tell our viewers and our audience a little bit about what is the Romanian dream? Why'd you come up with it? And I think that'd be a good starting point.
Yeah. Thanks for having me here. So hello, everybody. So the Romanian dream, first of all, right now, it does not exist. So let's say maybe it exists, but it's like an unconscious thing in people's minds, right? So in US here, you have a very clearly defined concept, it exists. So that's the first step. At least we have the concept that it exists. So for me, that was very helpful, growing up, getting inspired from the American dream, which is, of course, maybe not perfect, but it does serve a very good purpose, and it has a very good impact into the people's minds. Whereas in Romania, the general narrative that I can see now that can be put together if we were to make this a Romanian dream with what's in people's heads right now is hey, this is a place where you cannot really succeed. We should probably leave the country, or this country is not good, or it's a very disempowering state of mind that people have there, right? And I was reflecting over my progress in life and a success here and there where it occurred, and I realized how much of an importance had for me to look up to some sort of dream, or a story that, hey, I could become somebody if I follow these steps. Look, there are these guys in the US that are doing some things. They also started from nothing, and now they made it, you as well, right? You had a very good progress and amazing journey along the way. So that was very inspiring for me, and it was one key ingredient that like really made me believe and made me desire and allowed me to like, hey, let's do something about it. Versus not having that would be like, hey, it's not possible. I would be like, okay, if it's not possible, let's just stay stuck, right? Like right there. So I think there are little things that change people's lives, and like getting inspired by a story or like a American dream or like a Romanian dream or like seeing somebody succeeding and being able to relate to that, that's life changing. And it only has to happen like once in a lifetime, you know.
Yeah, yeah. So do you believe that had it not been for the influence of the American dream, and let's call it the American influencers of the world showing success and such, do you believe you'd be in a different position in life now in Romania?
100%, yeah, I think so. Maybe something else would have come, or I would have found something different. However, you know, I was obsessed like growing up in high school and even before that, reading about Steve Jobs and watching interviews with Bill Gates and all these guys, and it was like a weird obsession because around me nobody was doing that.
Yeah, yeah.
Like in the school breaks, I was having the autobiography of Steve Jobs and you know looking through that, and everybody was looking like, "Hey, you're a weirdo, bit. Why are you doing this?" But I
Yeah.
loved it, right?
Yep.
So I didn't have my tribe necessarily around myself, but having this kind of access to mindset that entrepreneurs here had was like a very very big help for me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So the American dream, as I see it, is, you know, the quote unquote white picket fence life, right? The concept of not having this caste system. You could start out, you know, absolutely dirt poor. You work your way up, you work very hard, and then you could, you know, rise to whatever class system you have, and you can get the, you know, white picket fence life, right? The nice car in the driveway and the 2-story house with the white picket fence and such. So that's how I would define it. What would the Romanian dream look like if you were to, you know, maybe add some color to that?
Well, first of all, we need to see like what's the status right now with the Romanian mindset,
Okay.
right? So in order to be able to define that, so one thing is like, as I mentioned, is like a big disempowerment in people. Like they do not trust themselves. They do not trust that there are opportunities around Romania. So the core principle of the Romanian dream would be like, hey, you can do this here.
You
And
don't need to go to a different country. You don't need to go and outside. It's all here right now.
you can learn from other countries. You can go and get experience from other countries. And I wouldn't want people, you know, to be like, hey, I only need to stay here because you know it's an open world and hey,
Yeah.
explore. If it's better for you, move outside, right? Like, who says that you have to stay here? But it's not. If you choose to stay there, you can do things there. You know, you can do things in Romania, and you can build businesses, and you can have a good life, whatever good means for you. Like it can mean family, it can mean like being single, it can mean having you know just a job that's satisfying. It can be, you know, being an entrepreneur. Whatever good means for you, and uh, however crisp and you know however enticing that good is for you, you can have that. There's nobody saying that you cannot have that. So that would be like a foundation for what the Romanian dream.
And why do you think the typical Romanian person doesn't believe that they're entitled to that? Why don't they believe currently that they can have it? Why are they not inspired by it?
Lack of data, and by data I mean data points, of course, of or references of people that have succeeded. And maybe they heard about some millionaires or billionaires from Romania or whatever, but it's not relevant to them. It's not. They cannot connect the dots from their current situation towards like the success that they see on TV for or YouTube for some other people, right? And basically, the gap here can be filled with good media, good content, good YouTube creators, or like maybe movies that document, you know, regular successful people. Maybe not like, you know, like Olympic athletes or like successful sport people
Yeah.
that, you know, it takes like some genetic material to do that, and serious preparation, of course, a lot of work. But it's a lot of talent versus like there's also this business space where you kind of need a little bit of talent, but also there's like a lot of work that can be learned and a lot of mindset that doesn't depend necessarily on talent or like where you are or who you are or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, we had a Romanian TV station, Antena Stars, actually fly
Oh,
out
really?
to the States, and they basically did this thing called, what was it? Vis Romanesc Succes American. So Romanian Dream, but American Success. And they flew out here and, they basically interviewed various Romanians that made it in the States. They actually did a promo or whatever, an episode on me. But what I found peculiar was she focused very high level, surface level on the raw shit, which like, hey, look at, this car, or look at, how many millions of dollars are done here and such. But it's interesting that like she didn't choose to go in Romania, for example, and focus on success stories in Romania, because as we'll get into later into this episode, there's many people that I've met, that are living an amazing life there. They're making as much as a person would make in the States over in Romania and such.
Yeah.
So,
So it's also our background, right?
mhm.
In Romania, like you are familiar with the communist
Yep.
period where the basically the borders were closed. Like
Yep.
people could not escape the country for context here, and that's an innate desire that's built in within generation. Basically, when something is repressed, you are not allowed the
Mhm.
forbidden fruit and the explanation that only outside is better.
Mhm.
It's kind of like a running pattern in the people's minds, um, which is also true and false in the same time. I mean,
Mhm.
outside is better depending on the person, right? But because if you really come to the US, like a lot of people have this impression that, oh, I'll leave this because it's bad and there will be good.
Mhm.
And surprise, you get there and it's not that good if
Yep.
you don't really work, like you really have to put some work as well in the US to really make it, right?
Yep.
It's not like you come here and here's some money and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you're just doing good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's peculiar. I've seen a lot of Romanians actually move to the States and achieve like a baseline level of success, right?
Yeah.
And then just kind of plateau there because of mindset. Like the average Romanian American that is here has potential to do so much more, but the mindset, the communist mindset, the scarcity mindset, all of these different, traumas kind of come up, and then they become self-sabotaging. And, they'll work hard and they'll get to that point of comfort, because there's that, you come from Romania, from a village with no running water. You're like, all right, no matter what, I'm going to have running water. I'm going to have electricity. I'm going to have the Mercedes. I'm going to have the food on the table, send my kids to school or whatever. And then they'll just plateau
Yeah.
and like start self-sabotaging this. It's like they don't believe that they deserve more than that, $100,000 to $150,000 a year lifestyle that they built, early on.
I love what you said, like, and it circles back to the belief, right?
Yep.
Believing, and I strongly agree that we get in life what we believe we deserve,
Mhm.
right? It's not
Yep.
necessarily what we really deserve, because
Mhm.
that's like a mindset thing, like a program in our mind, like what do we deserve, right?
Yep.
Um, so there is also another foundational thing I think very useful for Eastern people, not only Romanians, but like that people that have backgrounds in Eastern Europe or like other civilizations, because when you are born into the US, there is a very specific gift that people have here. Like they are born with some sort of trust.
Mhm.
Hey, I'm American.
Mhm.
Like when you go into the world and you show like a passport from the US, doors open for you in different
Mhm.
ways. I mean, in certain situations like emergency things, you kind of have priority. So
Yeah.
that's a good advantage for sure. Like, right? In Romania, like people like really see themselves beneath
Mhm.
Western people. Like if you talk about like a German person
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
a French or like American, like there's this unconscious behavior to believe that if I'm Romanian, I'm beneath
Mhm.
those people. And it might be, if you think about like the power of the passport,
Mhm.
yeah, sure, the American passport is more powerful than in Romania, no
Yeah.
question about that, right?
Yep.
There are certain advantages, but in terms of human quality, like we shouldn't put like a equals like a less than greater, or like
Yeah.
we shouldn't compare, right? We cannot compare like human qualities, right? Human soul,
Yep.
if you put it like this. So yeah, that's why I think a lot of people go into the West just to work hard in like jobs, but not necessarily believing, as you said, that hey, I can really make it here, maybe like
Yeah.
achieve the what I believed a couple of years ago that was impossible.
So I think by this point, the people listening are like, wow, but who is this guy? And we talked about background. And I think it's a nice segue here. What is your background? Why are you so different than the typical Romanian? Why do you believe in this Romanian dream when, because you grew up in the same country that had its borders closed. Lived there, went through the schooling system and such. Tell us more about your background, where you come from, some of, your business successes I think we should go through and such.
Yeah, so I was born in a smallish village in Romania. Had a decent childhood, like had everything that I needed, basically good parents. I wouldn't say that I'm so much different, and I want to point this thing here because, of course, I had a different path in life, but I was also very lucky with my upbringing. So I cannot take that out of the context, of course. Had good education from my parents. I told you about my grandmother and like her decision, like in the communist period, to like I need to send my kids to school, which was very uncommon back then. Like for a woman in the communist period to send the kids to high school instead of keeping them, working the field or like taking care of animals and all that. So there was like this good context in my life, and had good mentors along the way. Traveled to the US while I was very young because I came here to do some internships with Google and Facebook, and being exposed to the culture and working here, I really got some good values at a very young age that I was able to bake into what I am now, right?
What was your profession? These internships of Google and Facebook, what were they for?
A software engineer.
Got it.
Yeah. So I was very obsessed in high school with a software engineer, like going to contests and creating algorithms, competitive programming, basically. I got very good at that. And then I got into Google and Facebook. They wanted me to be full time. I got both of them to offer me very decent money for that time for me, like a kid from a small city in Romania. I turned them down because I always had this belief that okay, I can do it myself, and I wanted to impact Romania in a way or another. So
wait, you flew to New York,
yeah,
right? Did these internships. Google and Facebook both wanted to put offers on the table. I assume what, 6-figure offers?
Yeah.
Like, okay. And you said no.
Yeah.
I'm going back to the motherland.
Yeah.
And at the time there, what was a engineer earning in Romania at the time?
Less, like 4 times less or something like that.
Got it.
From what I could have gotten at Google or Facebook. Yeah.
Got it. Wow.
Yeah.
And why? At that young age, why decide to, not take the carrot that was dangled of the American dream?
That's a good question. I always believed in my life that I should follow my intuition, and I trusted that a lot. And my vision for the future was not sitting 30 years coding. All the respect to those companies and all that, but I didn't want to be just a programmer for 30 years. Like I hated that idea deep within myself. Like I couldn't stand the possibility to. I prefer to be broke than be there in a way. And I knew that there's something more about myself, and I really believed that within me. So I said, okay, it's now or never. Like I cannot just lie to myself and say, hey, let's take a couple of years and see how it works. I have to take a jump now because I'm young. I don't have any, attachments like kids or family or whatever. What can happen? Like worst case scenario. And I was a very lucky guy. Like Worst case scenario, I get back to those companies somehow and I get paid a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So the worst case scenario was not that bad, right? Like if you really, the emotional part, logically it makes sense, but emotional was hard, like to really take that decision. It wasn't a light decision, but I really believe in my vision and myself, and I said, okay, I need to do something about it. Otherwise, it doesn't happen. So it's interesting that when I quit those companies, I not only quit the companies, I quit the software engineering skill, which for me was like was giving like a good income potentially, right? But also it was like a prison because I felt that I depended on that, and I wanted to prove that okay, I can make money otherwise. Like I don't need to depend on that. So luckily, my YouTube channel appeared around that time where I learned like, hey, I can make viral videos after 1 year of many months of work, of course, like not overnight. But I discovered that hey, I have multiple skills and I can really, have something going. And after that, I didn't know what a personal brand was at that point. So like a lot of people loved me in Romania, like getting on TV and people recognizing me on the street. Mini personal figure, let's say. I don't want to use celebrity or things like that, but that was
Why
awesome.
did people recognize you and put you on TV in Romania? Because you got the internships at Google and Facebook?
I share my story, and people were resonating with the message I had. Back then in Romania, there and on YouTube in general, there were a lot of people doing like educational content with the quality that I was doing.
Got it.
So people were sick about challenges and putting things on your head and all these pranks and whatever, and they resonated and they wanted to promote that.
And you were sharing your story and doing educational videos on like what you learned, how you got the internship and things like those, and just sharing life lessons
Exactly.
on YouTube basically.
That was my core motivation starting the YouTube, because I wanted to show other people like, hey, this is possible, this is how you do it, this is what you need to prepare if you want to have these experiences. Go do it. I'm here to help you. Like I really wanted to give something back. Like that was like deep within myself. Like, and I'm not saying that just to say, like, because I don't believe things work if you are not like 100% committed within yourself, right? So people can feel that and you cannot fabricate. So I think that's what connected people, and I'm glad that even now, years later, I get messages from people that still watch those videos and they get changed and they do things different. Yeah.
So you didn't get into engineering and you stopped coding. What
Yeah.
did you end up doing?
I started a business. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's interesting
So
how
you went from being an employee to now a business owner.
yeah.
What was that business?
It's interesting, like, how Steve Jobs says that you can only connect the dots looking backward, not looking forward. So the business that I started, like, connected everything perfectly. Like my YouTube channel talking about software engineering, my skills as a software engineer and as a freelancer and all that, and basically the impact that I wanted to have in Romania. So the business was focused on helping software engineers build their own freelance business. Because so I wanted to bring a change in Romania. My thesis was that hey, if I help, if I make available the insight that hey, you can make more money as a software engineer selling services to San Francisco rather than a local town in Romania, naturally you'll make more money because the market pays a lot more in the US, right?
Yep.
And I figured out, hey, what can be the biggest impact I can have on Romania is that if I give people resources, they can have access to more education or like improve their families. And if I make 100K millionaires or over 10 years, because you have like 10K euros a month for a year over 10 years,
10 years.
the math is kind of there, right? And I figured like I can have this impact. That's pretty cool impact.
So what was it? What was the business specifically?
So it was a consulting business helping software engineers build their freelance business, finding clients basically outside of the Romania and getting basically 3x or 2x income that they're making working less hours, because in Romania, there's like people are worked a lot, like even weekends nonstop and all that. So offering that to Romanian software engineers, that was the business. And I think we made a big change, and we did make a big change in the industry there. Like people
Mhm.
started asking more money, and I was seeing like posts of recruiters on LinkedIn, like in Romania, because they couldn't find talent at world
Mhm.
prices, because now people knew that, hey, this is possible, and we're going to charge more.
Mhm.
So I was very happy about that, and I think it stimulates the whole economy and industry in a good way to have a better paying talent.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, what do you think an average Romanian developer was making prior to joining your movement, and then what were they making post?
So when we started, is like 2K would be like a mid good salary, 2K a month,
Mm-hmm.
take home. Um, After working with us, the minimum would be like 5K to make. But we had lots of clients like 10K or 15K or 20K
Wow.
or like whatever. I remember there was a guy that he came like 800 euros or 500 euros, and he made in 3 months like started making like 10K. It was
Wow.
like for him it was like
This
I
is
think
life
the
changing.
of course like the
Yeah.
and the highest ROI in this sense, like from that scale, because he was very
Mm-hmm.
worked by the other guys that
Wow. How many developers have gone through your program, you think?
hundreds, so not thousands, but 600, I think.
Wow.
I don't know the rough number, but hundreds, let's say hundreds. Yeah.
So your decision
Yeah.
to not take the six-figure job at Facebook or Google
Yeah.
impacted 600 other fellow Romanians that didn't have to go and move to the States to
Yeah.
take their income from 1 to 2K per month to 10 to 15K.
And this is 600 that we work personally with, but like we made our information public, uh, and thousands of others like benefited from it.
Wow.
Like there are a lot of people that wrote me like, hey, I didn't work with you, but I'm so grateful for like what you guys made with the
Mm-hmm.
content and explanation, because I found these clients
Yep.
myself, right? So
So you're just giving the information away, and you come up as a part of my program, and I charge you for the implementation, but the information I just give away for free.
100%, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of people were benefiting from that, and we wanted that, right? Like that
Mm-hmm.
was like it was our mission, and I really believed in that. And of course you have to make money in a business,
Of
right?
course.
Because
Yeah.
otherwise
Yeah.
you cannot support creating content and like a content team and like
Yep.
putting time. Why would you do that, right, if you are not
Yeah.
paid?
Yeah.
But like for me as an entrepreneur, it was like a constant thing in my reflection time, like, hey, how sold am I to this vision that I talk about, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how are my actions matching
Yep.
my words, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I learned that here in the States, because hey, I built this business like having mentors, and I
Mm-hmm.
traveled a lot here. I wasn't, and I'm not a genius.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very perseverant. I some sort of intelligence, basic intelligence, I think, not something incredible, but like I really try to learn from people here. And the mindset culture around the business and the work ethic here is like next level to Romania.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I think, like you mentioned over lunch, that like coaching is a very big trend here in
Mm-hmm.
Romania. The level is very, very, very
There's
low.
not much coaching
Yeah,
available.
and like how to do sales and like
Mm-hmm.
marketing and all that, to be also like from an ethical place,
Mm-hmm.
like it's close to zero in Romania. So
Wow.
we brought this to Romania. Like we had, like, I think the best coaching business there, like no competition
Wow.
at all in terms of the structure and how we approach selling and marketing and client fulfillment and all that. And of course, I didn't invent it. I learned it here.
Of course.
So yeah, brought it to Romania.
Got it. Wow. Yeah, I mean, this is very mind blowing, and I know, most of the people watching this, they come from the States, and they're like, okay, 600 customers and such, so on and so forth. But like building a seven-figure business in my eyes, I feel like Romania feels third world, but it's not. It's actually like closer to second world, and I think now that it's part of NATO, it's probably going to get back up to first world. But building a seven-figure business, helping hundreds, if not thousands of people live a completely different life there. That's like really incredible. So it sounds like that chapter of life has come to an end, right? You left the business with your partner and such. What's next in this journey of the Romanian dream?
Well, I really want to. I'm wondering how much I should share about this, because I want to do things and then talk about them. But I really believe in this Romanian dream. So I'm gathering allies
Hmm.
into this, because I'm not the guy that is going to change everything,
Hmm.
right? It's like a team effort. It's like
Yep.
you do this with other people. So the overarching thing that I can say is that I'm looking to get allies uh, to shape this Romanian dream, which, by the way, it's open source. I don't want to claim it. It's not
Yeah.
mine.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
not my concept. So it should be open source, and it should be not used by some other people to be like a political thing or whatever,
Yep.
right? It should be everyone can have their own Romanian dreams. You can put your own values into it, whatever you believe in. Uh, we should kind of debate what those values are, and make them the status quo, right,
Hmm.
in the society. So this is kind of the long term focus. And when I say long term, I'm thinking like decades. It's not like, okay, we're gonna change this in like 1 year,
Hmm.
right? Because it's a mindset thing. It's generation. It's like it needs to click with people like that are living in villages, right?
Hmm.
Of course, people here might resonate, and like other people that are living in urban centers in Romania. But how do you really provoke that change at the basic levels of the society? So that's what's intriguing for me right now. That's where my focus is, and there are some verticals within that, but that's for another time.
Got it. Well, if you're looking for allies, I've always looked to give back to the Romanian community. Now, I'm obviously focused on building my empire here in the States and such, so I can't by any means commit to create anything. But if there's any way I can contribute as an ally, you've got me for sure.
I 100% very much appreciate that, and you are an amazing example, and I hope like a lot of Romanians follow you as well,
Hmm.
because you are a living inspiration of what's possible.
Thank you.
And I'm 100% sure that a lot of people in Romania, and not only Romania, maybe other countries that or immigrants that move to the US, like they can see that within you. And man, you have a gift for this. And I see that in you. And I think you are at least somewhere in your start there.
Hmm.
It's written to inspire people.
Thanks so much, man.
Yeah.
So there's audience members watching this podcast right now. We made a promise at the beginning that we're going to talk about something. And there's for sure people listening to this right now that have made it. Look, mama, I made it. I got the degree, I got the corporate job at Facebook or Google or wherever, right? I climbed up the ladder. And I'm sitting here making 6 figures of income, making money, life's great. But I don't feel that fulfillment. I don't feel
Oh
that
yeah.
purpose, right? And they're between like a rock, they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. And what would your advice be to these people? And maybe we can give them a framework through how they can think about making the decision of listening to that intuition,
Hmm.
going after finding their true purpose, and saying fuck this corporate job, because I feel like even in the world there's the main characters, like what you just described. They're grabbing the bull by the horns, going and doing stuff. And then what are those called? NPCs?
Yeah.
Right? Like in video games, you
Yeah.
have like the little dudes that just kind of like walk back and forth. How can the world get off of the hamster wheel of that and find their purpose, cut the rope, and go dive in?
Hmm.
What are your thoughts on that?
So I would say the first step would be accepting the contrast. What I mean by that, when you are in a very good corporate job and you hate it there,
Mm-hmm.
it's like a feeling inside that you have that contradicts the perception of the exterior, like what your parents think about you, what your friends think about. Hey, he's doing fine, he's working there,
Mm-hmm.
like a good job, right? So there's a conflict, right, that comes from this contrast, like what they think, hey, should be awesome, and what I feel, it's
Yep.
shit, right?
Yep. Yep.
I
Yep.
don't like it. uh, and people tend to neglect that, like, hey, it's probably just a phase, I shouldn't take care of my feelings, let's just work even more, let's reach that milestone of salary or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. and then years pass, and at some point they break. I've seen multiple cases. So the first step would be to admit that, hey, these are my feelings and they are important. I should look into it and align like what I want rationally with what I want emotionally, because it's clear that if it's something within me that's not good, I should prioritize myself in a way, right?
Yep.
So then the second step is like, what I would say is like, how would that alignment look like? For me, it was like, okay, I need to leave. And leaving is not like, there are decisions that are reversible and irreversible. And in life, there are very few decisions that are irreversible. And getting out of the corporate ladder is not something reversible. Like, you can always return.
Yeah, just like you got that one job, you can go back and get it.
100%. It doesn't feel that way. It feels like, oh, I'm worked so hard for this job, I won't find anything. But if you really look objectively about it, you will find another job.
Of course.
Like 99.9%, right?
Yep.
So the process of aligning like what's inside with what, like the heart with the mind, basically, needs some, space to think, which can be got from, you can get that from like, taking a break, or, straight jumping into whatever. Or for other people, maybe they would find peace within themselves just staying there, and they just need to, maybe do some psychotherapy work or whatever that helps align that thing from within. For me, I knew what I wanted, so that's also important. I believe that would be like, maybe after you determine this contrast, you decide, hey, what do I want long term? Like, really, what do I want? Am I comfortable staying here 30 more years? Yes or no? And then just do something about it.
Yeah.
The
other thing I feel called to outline is the message that we're portraying here could be like, oh yeah, be your own boss, like leave corporate America and then become an entrepreneur, which is obviously what you did. But then there's probably people that are sitting there and they're like, man, I'm not cut out for entrepreneurship. Is that the only way? And I believe that there's two categories of people that can move society forward, and both categories can fulfill their purpose. And I also believe that it doesn't take just an entrepreneur. And actually, parentheses, there's more non-entrepreneur millionaires in the world than there are entrepreneur millionaires. I don't know if you knew about that fact.
Know, yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So there's two buckets, right? There's the entrepreneur and then there's the intrapreneur.
Yeah.
Right? The entrepreneur goes out, takes the risk, starts their own business, stuff like that. And some people here may feel called to say, fuck this corporate job at, X company. I'm going to go and start my own business, right? But then there's a certain segment listening to this call right now that are like, man, I don't feel like I could do that because I'm not that jack of all trades, maybe a developer, right? And my challenge to that person would be, go find the job where you could be the entrepreneur and go align your skill set and your talents with a mission. Because you can be a really great developer that's on the hamster wheel right now at Facebook, but come, for example, to a company like Albi, where we're moving the restoration industry forward, right?
100%.
Negotiate equity as a part of your compensation package. Focus on your juju. You don't have to learn sales, marketing, and all this other stuff. Focus on your God-given gift, which is engineering, and align that superpower towards a mission that's moving forward.
I love that. I love that you mentioned that. Like 100%. I don't think that everybody should be an entrepreneur. There's a culture around us that kind of promotes that, like, you should be an entrepreneur because this is how. But it's good if you don't have even both of these aspirations. You can also like enjoy life like being an Uber driver.
Exactly.
And Uber driver is a good job.
Exactly.
Like if you really love it and it brings you pleasure and it delivers what you need. Hey man, that's amazing. We shouldn't judge ourselves for what society thinks we should do.
Exactly.
Right? So there's that aspect, and 100%. Like if you have a skill, there are ways to align that skill within already good environments for growth, where you don't have to learn everything.
Start from scratch.
Yeah.
So entrepreneur or not, employee or not, I think the moral of the story is have a purpose and a passion and go follow that purpose and passion. Don't just get stuck on the hamster wheel because society just wants you to be on that.
Yeah, yeah. Listen to what's happening inside, because usually, if you know, there's a feeling that you get, and like you know it, like you know, because you cannot ignore it, and you cannot sleep at night, and you, if you have that, like you should do something about it, whether it is to be an entrepreneur or switch jobs or
Yeah,
do
yeah,
things
yeah.
within that company, or you should do something about it, because it only gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'm curious about you though. Like, I don't know if this is a space to talk about it, but
Sure.
like, what was the? I mean, you started some jobs as well, and what was the moment you decided, okay, I'm gonna be this entrepreneur? Like, what was that turning point for you?
I mean, I feel like I was kind of born with this knack of going off the beaten path, and
Yeah.
I have actually done some spiritual work, and it's coming up over and over again. It's just kind of, I think, in my soul constitution. I mean, I had
Mm.
a couple jobs here and there, like a car wash and such, but most of, even in high school, snow removal business, website. I wouldn't call them businesses; I'd call them gigs, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't think there was an aha moment for me. I think it's just always been in my DNA, in my soul constitution, call it,
Mm.
to go off the beaten path, not necessarily, yeah, and create and lead people towards what I felt was right.
I was reading this book by Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan. I don't know if
Mm.
you know them, but like they wrote like 10x is easier than 2x and
Yep,
a couple
yep,
of
yep,
other.
yep, yep.
Yeah, and Dan Sullivan said at some point in that book or another book that entrepreneurs have this unique trait that at some point in their early childhood or life they strike out on a different path, and it seemed true for you, and
Yep.
for me as well. Like reading all these different things when I was young, and every person that I met that really made it as an entrepreneur, like they kind of had some sort of thing in their childhood, like to prepare them for, like they faced adversity in some ways or
Yeah,
another, or yeah, there was something
100%.
there.
Yeah. Yeah, and it typically doesn't make sense when you're living in the moment, right? You're in that moment, the listeners that are in that corporate job right now, just thinking about them right now, and it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense why you're feeling what you're feeling. It doesn't make sense why you have the desire to go off the beaten path, but you just go do it. Life unfolds for decades, and then it all just kind of puts together. So like I did radio, I did TV, I did website designing, snow removal, all this weird shit that had nothing to do with each other. Just like when you're mentioning, the content and the engineering and stuff. But then when you put all the puzzle pieces back together after they all happen, you look in retrospect and it's like, that
That
now makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense. It's beautiful and it's there.
Oh yeah, it's magic how things work. And I heard these stories when I was growing up, and I wanted to believe them, but I wasn't 100%. Okay, it's gonna happen for me as well, and it did happen. And I was like, okay, that's true. It's hard to relate to them though. I understand that. And I would say one more thing, like I feel that we as a society, we are very focused on, as humans, on like do's and haves, like what do we do, what do we have, all that, but rather than maybe a bit more on be and feel. Like how do we label ourselves in certain things? Hey, I'm a programmer, or I work as a programmer, for instance. It's two different
Yep.
definitions of myself and my activities and my relationship with the world, right? Or like how I feel, right? And understanding the emotional part of ourselves, I think it's a kind of tricky skill, like we kind of take it for granted that, oh, of course it's just emotions and I understand them, but in the same time it's not that easy to work with that language, let's say, the emotional language, right? Because we are used to do and have, which is like kind of rational,
Yep.
whereas be and feel is more like irrational, but comes from the heart and also part of us. So for me, that was a journey for the past 3 or 4 years. I like heavily invested, as you mentioned, in the spiritual journey, or like various high performance coaches that were able to help me see, like, and understand this insight.
Yeah.
and distinguish this language, because when you say joy is different from happiness, and like
Yep.
there are a lot of nuances inside ourselves that once you determine those, you get clarity over what you want, and then the rest follows.
Yep. Yeah, and kind of like tying everything back full circle. If you can't figure out the emotional or spiritual side, and you don't believe you deserve certain things, the irrational part, the intangible part, you'll end up on this hamster wheel where you won't do and have the things that you want to do and have. And fundamentally, if we want to like reprogram society or fix society or fix the Romanian dream, like you said, we need to find a way to work on that irrational side, on that soft side. And you're right, it's actually tough, because for generations during communism, it was all about this black and white, literally no pun intended. When you think of communism, you think black and white, rigid, structured, rationed, portioned out, don't worry about your emotions, all this stuff, like F the church, F emotions, and so on and so forth. We now have to work with that sample set and like speak belief back into them, speak possibility back into them, right? I think one of my favorite quotes is also like, possibility always exists, limitation is always created. So we have to work with the world to try to change that mindset, to make people understand that, look, like, you're just sitting here creating all this limitation. There's a world where this limitation doesn't have to exist.
I love that you said you are creating the limitation. Yeah, that's empowering. I love that. And there's a quote I love as well, like, we are born infinite, but we learn limitations. Yeah.
Man, we can go on and on for this, but obviously our time's coming towards an end. Any last thoughts to kind of button this up, or anything else that you'd like to tell the fellow American?
Hey, thank you, Juan, because US was very helpful for me, so I really appreciate that. I'm very grateful for being here and getting the chance to interact with the culture and society here, and people like you, and a lot of other folks. And second, I would say, think bigger, and dream and do your dream life, because you have the possibility. You have the American dream. It's kind of true. I mean, it exists here, so yeah, go for it.
That's the thing. Like, a lot of people take the American dream for granted. As a Romanian coming here and just luckily being gifted the American dream, I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, people are given this every single day, and they're walking around not realizing just how blessed they are to be able to live it. Like,
you're so right about that. Yeah. I mean, actually travel to Romania. And you'll get back with a lot of gratefulness here.
100%. Cool, man. Well, this was great, man. Thanks so much for coming out all the way to Chicago from Bucharest, and look forward to hosting you on another one.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, and love talking with you anytime. Yeah.